I'm joined now by Mary Kissell, who was with me last night. Mary, thanks for coming back. Member of the editorial board. We're kind of crossing the line here at the Wall Street Journal tonight.
Also host of Opinion Journal Live, if you want to tune in on WSJ.com.
You're welcome to have that advertisement, Mary.
Thanks very much.
Look, you were with me last night during Paul Ryan's speech. Everybody agrees it was an extraordinary speech. But what we've seen in the 24 hours since is some truth squatting going on. You know, did he stretch the facts? That factory in Janesville, Wisconsin, apparently closed before Barack Obama was sworn in as president.
Not the point. Look at our editorial today. It's up on WSJ.com. If you want the real truth, you've got it already up on the website.
The other issue was Simpson-Bowles, that he made a point that the president walked away from it, but of course he was a member of that commission. He also walked away from it.
Of course, a total load of hogwash. He came out with Simpson-Bowles delivered the plan. The president did nothing.
No stretching of the truth at all.
No, and I tell you what, Alan,
you don't cede an inch, Mary.
No,
do you?
I don't. I tell you what, though, Alan, in the 24 hours, we just had within the last 30 minutes the most incredible testimonial about Mitt Romney's service to the church. I think those people just...
We weren't able to watch here, so talk a little bit about those testimonials.
It was incredible.
Really very impressive.
It was amazing. You had an elderly couple of modest means come out and talk about how Mitt Romney cared for their son, who eventually passed away. You had then a mother come out and give a similar story about her child, and just really quiet service. Kinds of things.
Very moving.
Apparently, the whole convention hall was in tears. But Alan, it was almost as if the Democrats have spent millions of dollars in this couple, in this single person, in testifying to the kind of quiet, humble service that Mitt Romney gave to his church. They just obliterated all of those ads. There's no way
let's talk about that, because here's the interesting thing about that. Here's the interesting thing about that. It was very compelling, very moving testimony. You could see the tears on the floor. Yet, as Bill Schneider said just a few minutes ago, this election is playing out with a very small number of people. We don't know how many of them are even paying attention. The ratings on this thing have not been particularly high. You know, is any of this really going to move the needle?
I don't think anybody knows, Alan, if the people who are watching this convention coverage or who will watch next week's convention coverage are those people who want to be convinced. Are they paying attention? You don't know that. I don't know that.
Right.
What I do know is what the polls are saying. You had a new poll out today that shows Mitt Romney is now in the lead by a couple of points. He is getting this bounce. You see the polls narrowing in the swing states. We talked about that yesterday. Again, we had an editorial in the paper this morning also talking about that. Look, I think what was most important tonight and what was so extraordinary about these testimonials is that you are finally starting to understand what kind of a man Mitt Romney is. He's a humble guy and he doesn't talk about it. And up until now, politically, that has been holding him back. If he can get beyond that...
You think he'll talk more about it tonight, or is he leaving it to these other people to get the message across?
I don't know how much he'll talk about it, simply because that's not the kind of guy that he is. It's not him. But you know what? I think many Americans may start to appreciate that about him. We've just had a president who stands up and is the smartest guy in the room all the time, who's Mr. Slick. Maybe America wants a humble, accomplished man who is deeply religious and committed to his family.
You're kind of in this take no prisoners mode. You're a little bit like Paul Ryan himself.
Look, I'm sorry, I'm trying to counter some of the coverage here.
I mean, one thing, you know, to the extent, I mean, of course, most of the coverage I've seen of the Ryan speech has actually been pretty positive. Everybody thinks that he showed himself to be an extraordinarily strong politician. You are seeing a little bit of movement in the polls, but we are going to go very quickly into the Democratic convention. They're going to attack. They'll put on a good show. They know how to put on a good show. We saw that 4 years ago.
But Alan,
where does that leave us?
This is why the message that the Republicans are putting out is so important. If you come out with a positive message and say, we want to take responsibility for this economy, we want to fix things, we have a positive vision for America, we're about big ideas. And then in the next week, the Democrats come out and attack and run a negative campaign, and they don't talk about their ideas because, frankly speaking, they don't have ideas to run on. They haven't put out any kind of big plan for how to fix entitlements or get us out of our debt. They're promising more of the same. I think that's why picking Paul Ryan and making reform the centerpiece of this platform was such a genius idea. Increasingly, I'm beginning to think this is looking like 1980.
Well, Mary, your enthusiasm is clearly growing. If the country follows you, but part of the reason your enthusiasm is growing, I think you will admit, because I've followed your opinions on this, is that you're very excited about Paul Ryan and more excited than you were previously about Mitt Romney. At the end of the day, people vote for the president. They don't vote for the vice president.
Sure, they do. But I think what's starting to excite me about Mitt Romney is that, number one, like the rest of America, I'm learning more about him. I learned a heck of a lot more about him with these testimonials tonight from his congregants. I'm learning that he can learn. He went from having a 59-point economic plan to being convinced, in large part by Paul Ryan, to have a serious tax plan, an entitlement reform plan. And I'm beginning to see what the response is from the other side.
What about the rest of the Republican bench? We're hearing from a bunch of people. We heard from Jeb Bush talking about education.
Very interesting.
We talked about Condi Rice last night. Chris Christie 2 nights ago has gotten a little bit of blowback from some of the folks at the convention for talking a bit too much about himself. We're going to have Marco Rubio. Who are the people to watch, in your view, out of this group?
I think the message out of this is the number of people there are to watch, Alan. I mean, Marco Rubio is going to bring down the House tonight. He's speaking in his home
you haven't heard him yet, Mary. You can't review the speech before you've heard it.
He was my senator. I'm from Florida. I know this guy. He's very comfortable in front of the camera. He's a natural politician. He'll give a barn-burning speech.
What?
I think Susana Martinez was a standout. I think Ted Cruz did a good job, although I'm not the biggest Ted Cruz fan, but he did a pretty good job. I think Ann Romney did a very competent job. And again, Condoleezza Rice, for somebody who's not a politician, I think comported herself very, very well. Jeb Bush tonight also. I think a lot of people looked and listened. He was low-key, but isn't it interesting that now we can have a conversation, a real conversation about education reform, and it's not just the Republicans that are talking about it, it's actually Democrats that are implementing it too. That's also a very interesting policy shift that we're seeing this week.
Yeah, very interesting. So we're waiting for Marco Rubio, your senator. You've already said he's going to give a great speech.
He will.
So
I'll bet you on that, Al. I'll bet you on that.
We're waiting for Mitt Romney to hear what he has to say. We're also waiting for the mystery guest.
We know who that is.
Not such a mystery anymore,
Do we want to reveal it?
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Clint Eastwood.
And what does that do for the
That's
Republicans?
awesome, Alan.
Because it's like make my day.
Because Hollywood was always the preserve of the left.
You had Charlton Heston.
But look at who is chairing the President's Re-Election Committee from Hollywood, Eva Longoria. She's going to speak at the DNC next week. They're putting her on stage. So isn't it interesting?
Who would you rather look at?
Isn't it interesting? Oh, Alan, you can't ask me that on live streaming broadcasts. This is a family program.